I used to believe code was clean. That logic was safe. That if you built something with precision and purpose, it would protect you. That was before they stole from me. Before they erased my name from something I gave 5 years of my life to. Before they smiled in my face and cut me off like I was a loose wire. My name is Daniel Vale, and this is how it started. You ever walk into a room and feel like you don't belong in your own skin? That's how it felt at the Vale family reunion. Big smiles, fake hugs, champagne glasses clinking off ego and entitlement. $100,000 in landscaping just to make it look like our family had it all together. But we didn't. Not even close. I stood near the koi pond, the only place that didn't feel completely fake. Watched the fish swirl beneath the surface, cold and silent like me. The air stank of overachievement, law degrees, mergers, IPOs, Ivy League scholarships. They all talk like success was just a birthright. And me? I was the cautionary tale. Did you hear about Daniel? Poor guy. Used to be a big shot at Valeon Systems, right? Such a shame. He had so much potential. Yeah, I heard them. I kept sipping my drink like I hadn't. Like it didn't slice at every nerve I had left. 2 months ago, I was chief systems architect at one of the fastest growing cybersecurity startups in Atrium City. Now, just a guy in a borrowed suit, watching my cousin Silas brag about a $300 million acquisition like it was pocket change. Silas Vale. Trust fund tyrant turned venture capitalist. The kind of guy who says things like, "We don't invest in code. We invest in charisma." That night, he saw me alone and pounced like he'd been waiting his whole life for it. "Daniel," he called, raising his voice loud enough to drag the spotlight over. "We're talking about reinvention. You should join us." I didn't move. He smirked. "How's unemployment treating you?" Next to him stood Jessica Vale, his sister. High-profile litigator. High heels, higher opinions. She smiled like she was handing me a condolence card. "I heard Valeon let you go. Downsizing, right?" she asked. "Tech's so unstable these days." They all laughed. But none of them knew the truth. Not yet. The truth was ticking. Buried in every server Valeon ran. A ghost in their machines. And at 6 p.m. sharp it was going to wake up. I checked my phone. 5:57. 3 minutes until the world remembered who built Sentinel. They thought firing me was the end of the story. They thought they'd won. But I'd been building my revenge for years. You see, 4 years ago I started working on a project. Nights. Weekends. Alone. No budget. No applause. Just code, coffee, and a vision. I called it Sentinel. An adaptive AI security platform designed to detect and neutralize threats in real time. Not just respond to cyber attacks, but predict them, learn from them, destroy them before they even began. But I wasn't naive. I knew how the industry worked. Ideas were currency, and in tech, currency gets stolen. So I built a failsafe deep inside Sentinel's core. A hidden verification protocol tied to my biometric key. It would stay dormant, unless someone tried to pass off my creation as theirs. Guess what Valeon did? 2 months ago, Sterling Dorn, the CEO, called me into his glass-walled office. Didn't even look up from his damn emails. "Daniel, the board's shifting strategy. Consumer-first products. Sentinel's not aligned with that." I stared at him. "We're on the verge of something industry-defining. Sentinel could." "It's been sold," he cut in. "To a defense group. We're reallocating your role. HR will be in touch." I just nodded. I'd seen it coming the moment they stopped replying to my code reports. They didn't fire me. They freed me. Because what Sterling didn't know was that Sentinel had been watching him too. Recording every access point. Every unauthorized signature. Every line of code they tried to claim as their own. And tonight it would speak. I looked around the backyard. Fire pits glowing. Laughter echoing like a mockery of everything I'd lost. Or thought I had. Silas was still holding court when I walked up. "You know," he said, turning toward me with a smirk. "Real innovation doesn't need to hide behind code." I smiled. 5:59. I whispered, "You should probably check your phone." Jessica rolled her eyes. "What is this, another half-baked launch?" she said, chuckling. That's when the phone started buzzing. One by one. Notifications lighting up, faces like firecrackers in the dark. Eyes widened. Smiles dropped. Jessica's fingers trembled. Silas stopped talking mid-sentence. Across every screen the same headline blazed. Valeon Systems hit by intellectual property scandal, CEO linked to fraudulent AI sale. Another notification. Breaking, defense contract suspended pending ownership investigation. Another. Leaked. Full Sentinel verification protocol points to ex-employee Daniel Vale. My name. My work. My story. Finally uncaged. Silas's voice dropped to a whisper. What did you do? I pulled out my laptop. The same cracked screen I'd built Sentinel on. Opened a terminal window. Let them watch the truth spill out in lines of scrolling code. I didn't do anything, I said, voice flat. I just gave them the receipts. That was the first domino. By midnight, Valeon's stock would be frozen. Their legal team buried. And Sterling Dorn? He'd be waking up to a nightmare with my signature stitched into every line. But this was just the beginning. Because the thing about betrayal? It doesn't break you. It builds you. And after 5 years of being silent, I was done playing nice. They stole from the wrong developer. And I was just getting started. They say rock bottom has a floor. They're wrong. Mine kept falling. The morning after the bomb dropped on Valeon Systems, I woke up to a dead phone and a half-empty bottle of scotch. Headlines screamed my name, but the world didn't care that I was right. They cared that I was dangerous. Whistleblower or hacker? Was Daniel Vale justified or just bitter? Tech industry's Icarus? Genius or saboteur? And that's how they framed me. Not as the builder. Not as the architect. But as the ghost that slipped past security and embarrassed the machine. No one asked why I did it. They just assumed I snapped. The truth? I hadn't even begun to. I had no job. No paycheck. My name was blacklisted across half the city. You'd think after humiliating Valeon the offers would pour in. They didn't. Corporate loyalty runs deeper than justice. CEOs don't like it when one of their own gets gutted by a rogue coder. For weeks I lived in a one-bedroom apartment that still smelled like failure. Same coffee-stained hoodie. Same flickering overhead light. Same laptop, the only thing that hadn't abandoned me. I'd stare at the login screen for Sentinel and wonder, was it worth it? I had exposed the fraud. But what had I earned? No job. No allies. No peace. Just a target on my back, blinking red. Then one night, I heard a knock on my door. Not the kind you ignore. The kind that taps 3 times like it knows you. Like it's not asking. It's telling you to open up. I did. Standing there was a man with silver hair and charcoal eyes. Suit tailored sharp enough to slice through steel. Daniel Vale? He asked. Who's asking? He reached into his coat slowly and pulled out a card. Thick. Black. Embossed in matte silver. Tobias Creed, Director, Blackthorn Intelligence Division. Private Sector Black Ops. Rumored to work with governments that didn't like using their own people. Reputation for recruiting ghosts. We'd like to offer you a position, he said. I laughed. Thought it was a joke. You watch what I did to Valeon and you want to hire me? Creed didn't smile. You built something we haven't seen in decades. An AI that learns faster than it's taught. You predicted the betrayal. Laid the trap. You didn't lose your mind. You executed a plan. Clean. Precise. Personal. He stepped forward. We don't fear that kind of thinking. We fund it. I turned him down. Not because I wasn't tempted, but because I knew what Sentinel had become. It wasn't just a security platform anymore. It was a symbol. A quiet whisper to every exploited coder. Every engineer forced to sign NDAs while their bosses cashed out on stolen dreams. A whisper that said, you're not alone. If I sold it again, even to someone like Creed, it would be just another transaction. Just another commodity for someone else to weaponize. So I declined. And just like that, Creed vanished. No anger. No threat. Just a quiet nod. If you change your mind, you know how to find us. After that, something shifted in me. The grief faded. The rage? No. That stayed. But I started using it. I wrote. Not code. Not at first. I wrote everything they took from me. Every meeting. Every email. Every version of Sentinel they tried to alter. Then I published it. Anonymous. Encrypted. Online. The Sentinel Manifesto. Within 72 hours it had over 600,000 views. And with it came the messages. Coders. Designers. Analysts. People like me. People who had been erased. People who had their ideas stripped for parts by execs who didn't even know how to compile a build. One message stood out. I worked on AegisNet. My VP signed his name on my prototype. They fired me when I spoke up. Your story made me feel like I wasn't crazy. L. Ramos. It wasn't just revenge anymore. It was revolution. That's when I met Mira Lang. She messaged me under an alias, said she'd worked cybersecurity at Valeon before the implosion. Said she had files. We met in an old server farm 2 hours outside Atrium. Neutral ground. She walked in like she wasn't afraid of ghosts. Jet black hair. Military boots. Eyes sharp enough to dissect me on sight. You're either a madman or a martyr, she said. I shrugged. Aren't we all just broken builders waiting to snap? She tossed a flash drive on the table. Those are Sterling Dorn's internal comms. Proof he doctored the project timeline. Falsified your termination papers. Sold Sentinel under fake author credentials. My blood ran cold. Why help me? She pulled up her sleeve. Showed me a tattoo. A broken key wrapped in barbed wire. The symbol I had embedded into Sentinel's deepest layer. The mark of its true creator. Because you gave people like me a way to fight back, she said. And because they took everything from me too. We became partners. Every night, we dug deeper. Through fake contracts. Tampered test logs. Dorn's financial records. We traced the money. Found the shell corporations. And buried in a private Git repo behind 6 layers of obfuscation. Was Sentinel. Not the version I released. The stolen one. Stripped of failsafes. But still mine. And they were preparing to sell it again. To a foreign buyer. One who didn't care about ownership. Just power. Mira looked at me. If we don't stop them, they'll bury the truth for good. I stared at the screen. Every line of code I had once written in hope, now twisted into a weapon I never sanctioned. And that's when I knew. I wasn't done. I wasn't even close. They tried to bury me. But they forgot one thing. You can't kill the ghost that wrote the system. I used to think revenge was about rage. But rage is fire. Uncontrolled. Loud. Messy. What I was after. This wasn't about blowing up a building. It was about burning down a legacy, one signature at a time. After Mira showed me the stolen Sentinel build, everything changed. It wasn't just code anymore. It was a message. They were preparing to resell it. This time to Mio's Defense, a rogue conglomerate with ties to black market cyber warfare. I remember staring at the screen in silence. Watching my own work blink back at me in mutated form. Stripped. Weaponized. Gutted of all safeguards I'd spent years crafting. Mira leaned in. We have 72 hours before the deal closes. Where's it happening? I asked. She pulled up a file. Project Zephyr, data transfer scheduled at Atrium Vault, Level 9. Access via biometric clearance. Midnight Thursday. I swallowed hard. Level 9 was where I used to test early Sentinel builds. The irony was almost poetic. They were going to sell my legacy from the same floor where I gave it life. We didn't have time to go legal. This wasn't a courtroom war. This was a systems war. So we made a plan. Step 1, infiltrate Level 9. Step 2, inject a mirror protocol into the stolen Sentinel build. Step 3, leak proof of the unauthorized version before the sale goes live. Expose. Undermine. Collapse. Mira called it Operation Burnback. I just called it personal. We ran drills in an abandoned data center Myra's friend used for pen testing. We coded in silence, ate instant noodles off server racks, and slept in shifts under cold fluorescent lights. It wasn't glamorous. It was war. And then came Wednesday night. I remember standing outside the black glass skyscraper of Valeon's former HQ. It felt smaller now. Hollow. Like the soul had been scraped out and replaced with chrome and lies. Mira tapped her comms. Ready. Always. We moved fast. Backdoor access through a maintenance tunnel. No cameras. Mira made sure of that. We hit the sublevel, climbed the emergency shaft, and breached Level 9 with the cloned admin card she'd lifted from her time inside. Every hallway felt haunted. Every door a memory. And then we found it. The vault room. Temperature controlled. Red lit. Filled with racks of spinning drives and locked terminals. At the far end, the Sentinel clone. Still breathing. Still stealing. I pulled out my drive. Let's wake it up. I jacked into the clone server. Typed fast. Hands shaking. Mira kept watch, weapon holstered under her jacket. Every second, my code slithered deeper into the system. Snapping like ice under pressure. And then, a screen flashed. Mirror protocol engaged. Ownership trace initiated. I smiled. In 10 minutes, the world would see. My fingerprints embedded in every line. Every commit tied back to my personal encryption keys. Theft signed in blood. We're live, I whispered. But then... Myra's voice cracked through the comms. Daniel. Someone's here. I froze. Who? She stepped back, pistol raised. And from the shadows emerged a figure I hadn't seen in months. Silas Vale. My cousin. The one who mocked me at the reunion. The one who once said, real innovation doesn't need code. Now standing in a stolen server room. In a suit worth more than my apartment. Holding a security badge for level 9. Daniel, he said. I always knew you were good, but I didn't think you'd be this reckless. You're behind this? I asked, stunned. He smirked. Sterling was a pawn. I funded the Mio's deal. You think Valeon tanked just because of you? That was step 1. I stared at him, every piece falling into place. He hadn't just watched my downfall. He orchestrated it. You ruined me, I whispered. He raised a brow. No. You ruined yourself. You had a gift, but you wanted credit. And credit gets you nowhere. Ownership? That's power. He pulled a small device from his coat pocket. A signal jammer. I can't let you walk out with that code, he said, thumbing the switch. The upload stopped. Mira raised her pistol. Don't. Do. That. Silas didn't flinch. Shoot me and the entire floor locks down. You'll be trapped with nothing but regret. My mind raced. One chance left. I looked at my drive. Looked at Sentinel's clone. And then I did the only thing I could. I dragged the virus payload into the system. A full cascade overwrite. What are you doing? Mira shouted. Making sure no one profits from what they stole. I hit execute. The system screamed. Red alerts flashed across the server room. Silas lunged. Mira fired once. Not to kill, just to warn. He stumbled back as the drives lit up in digital fire. Every byte of the stolen build disintegrating. I pulled the drive, grabbed Myra's hand, and we ran. Alarms wailed. We escaped through the same shaft we entered. Breath ragged. Hearts pounding. Once outside, I collapsed on the pavement, staring at the stars. Everything they built on my work? Gone. Mira sat beside me, wiping sweat from her forehead. You okay? I nodded. But I wasn't. Not really. Because somewhere in that server room I had crossed a line. And I wasn't sure I could come back. That night, Silas didn't call the cops. He didn't press charges. He didn't have to. He had something worse. A backup. I used to think revenge was a destination. Burn the liars. Expose the thieves. Then walk away with your dignity intact. But that was before I saw what it cost. Before I realized there's a line between justice and obsession. And I crossed it like it didn't even exist. After we destroyed the clone server, Mira and I went dark. She moved into my place. 2 laptops. No windows. No lights after 10. Every screen blinked with encrypted chaos. We rerouted through 6 countries just to send an email. I thought Silas was out of moves. I was wrong. Because 48 hours later, the headlines exploded again. Breaking, black market Sentinel variant surfaces on international networks. Source unknown. FBI investigating former developer Daniel Vale for cyber sabotage. They blamed me. Said I leaked it. Said I turned Sentinel into a digital virus. I stared at the screen, heart hammering. They weren't just trying to ruin my name now. They were trying to erase my legacy. Again. I knew what that meant. Silas had made a backup. And he'd already sold it. Mira slammed her fist on the desk. He's making you the fall guy. Again. And now the feds are watching. I nodded. Then we burned the whole damn tree. Not just the branches. But I wasn't just talking about Silas anymore. I was talking about Sterling Dorn. The CEO. The face of Valeon. The man who publicly signed the original Sentinel defense deal and sold me out like yesterday's firmware patch. I knew he'd backed off after the scandal. Retreated from public life. Quiet. Controlled. Hiding. But not gone. We tracked his location to a private estate in Redwood Heights. The kind of place where men go to disappear, not retire. The plan was simple. Get inside. Extract the evidence Mira found in the comms dump. A full audio file, Sterling admitting he altered project logs and falsified ownership. That was the kill shot. The proof no one could ignore. Mira thought we should leak it anonymously. I didn't. We broke in through a service tunnel beneath the wine cellar. Silent. Surgical. Every footstep echoed like memory. Like all the years I spent working for a man who saw me as nothing but leverage. I found his office upstairs. Screens off. Files boxed. But there it was. His personal server. Offline. Local only. Unhacked. I plugged in and ran a silent trace. It found the audio. Buried deep. I listened. Daniel Vale? Please. He was just a developer. We needed a narrative. We paid him to go away. Simple as that. My jaw clenched. My hand hovered over the export button. But before I could press it, step away from the desk. A voice behind me. Cold. Familiar. I turned and saw Jessica Vale. She stood in the doorway, gun in hand. No badge. No uniform. Just the cold corporate resolve of someone raised to protect the family brand. You don't get to destroy everything we built, she said. I stared at her, stunned. You're working with him? She scoffed. Don't be naive. You think Silas made this move alone? You think we didn't plan for you? My blood turned to ice. You knew they were stealing Sentinel. You let them. She raised the gun higher. It was just code, Daniel. You made it personal. And that was the moment I felt it. The crack. Not in the plan. In me. I lunged. She fired. The shot missed, shattered a lamp. We struggled, years of trust collapsing in seconds. I pinned her, pulled the gun away. She gasped, clawed, cursed. I could have ended it. Right there. One pull. One shot. Everything would stop. But I didn't. Because in that moment I realized something brutal. I didn't hate her. Not really. I hated what we'd all become. I left her tied up alive. Took the file. Burned the backups. Lit every lie on fire and walked out before sunrise. Mira was waiting in the car, engine running. Did you get it? I nodded. And I found out who was really behind all of it. Her eyes narrowed. Who? I stared out the windshield as the estate disappeared behind us. My family. Later that night, we uploaded the audio. Not anonymously. I used my name. My face. My voice. And I said everything. How Sentinel was built. How it was stolen. Who altered the records. Who profited. I dropped receipts like raindrops on a fire. Code commits. Time-stamped logs. Surveillance captures. Sterling's voice. Jessica's face. By morning it was trending everywhere. Daniel Vale exposes decades of IP theft and damning whistleblower drop. Family empire crumbles under criminal investigation. The storm hit like a warhead. Sterling Dorn disappeared from the public grid. Jessica was subpoenaed. Silas? Still silent. But I knew he wasn't gone. I knew this wasn't over. Because Mira came into my room holding a fresh report. You're not going to believe this. She tossed it on the desk. It was a contract. Signed last week. Between Silas Vale and a private international buyer. They weren't trying to sell Sentinel anymore. They were trying to replicate it. There's a moment in every revenge story where the fire fades. When you've exposed the liars. Burned the paper trails. Ruined reputations. And yet, you still don't sleep. Because revenge isn't justice. And justice? It never feels like enough when what they stole was you. The leak shattered everything. My inbox flooded. Whistleblowers. Investors. Journalists. Some called me a hero. Some called me a cyber terrorist. And somewhere in that blur of headlines and subpoenas, the truth got lost again. But it didn't matter. Because Silas Vale was still out there. Still selling fragments of Sentinel to the highest bidder. Not the full AI, no. That was too dangerous. He was smarter than that now. He was selling derivatives. Fragments of its architecture repackaged, obfuscated, renamed. Every line of code still carried my DNA. And I wasn't about to let him turn my legacy into a black market buffet. We traced the deal to a data center in Dubai. Private. Shielded. Surveillance resistant. Buyer? Unknown. What we did know. Silas would be there. In person. Finalizing a contract for a military-grade derivative of Sentinel's predictive engine. If that deal went through, the ghost I created would be weaponized by people who didn't care about ethics, boundaries, or fallout. Mira looked at me, hand resting on her laptop. You sure about this? We do this, it's not hacktivism anymore. It's war. I nodded. Because war was the only language Silas understood. We flew out using forged credentials. Landed under the name of a shell firm registered to one of Myra's old aliases. The building was armored like a vault. Security. Drones. Biometric locks. But there's always a way in when you wrote the architecture they're trying to sell. I slipped through the firewalls like smoke. Mira handled the physical bypasses, infrared triggers, retinal scans, magnetic doors. We moved like muscle memory. Until we reached sublevel 3. Inside was a circular vault chamber. And there he was. Silas Vale. Standing across a glass table. Signing the final page of a $600 million contract with men who didn't wear names, just steel gray suits and eyes that never blinked. He looked up, smiled. Of course it was you, he said. You never did know when to quit. I walked forward slowly. Mira flanked me, gun drawn but lowered. You're done, I said. Silas chuckled. Daniel, look around. You think one video drop stops this? I've already sold it. They're already building on it. Sentinel's future doesn't need you anymore. I pulled out a small drive. Maybe, but the virus in this does. He hesitated. I placed the drive on the table. It's a cascade lockdown. One pulse into any Sentinel-based code, anywhere in the world, and it dies. Every derivative. Every clone. Every corrupted fingerprint. The men behind him tensed. You wouldn't, Silas said. Try me. He lunged. Mira moved faster. Gun raised. One shot. Not to kill, but to make a point. The bullet shattered the contract. Ink sprayed like blood across the floor. Silas froze, breathing hard. You think this makes you a hero? He hissed. I stepped forward. No. Heroes build things. You just steal. I looked at the buyers. The deal's off. Walk away now, or I detonate the virus and burn every line you've ever touched. One of them nodded slowly, spoke something into an earpiece, turned, walked away. The others followed. And just like that, it was over. We left Silas there, alone. No money, no buyers, no future. He didn't scream, didn't beg. He just stood there, surrounded by ashes he tried to sell as gold. A week later, the virus went live. Every Sentinel derivative across every illicit network? Gone. Wiped. Clean. Some tried to sue me. Others tried to recruit me. But I didn't take the bait. Instead, I joined Mira in building something new. The Sentinel Protocol, an open-source framework designed to protect creators. Every line of code timestamped, fingerprinted, and publicly verified. No NDAs. No hidden claims. Just truth, baked into the core. The movement grew. Developers came out of hiding, started sharing stories, fighting back against corporate erasure. And one day I woke up to an email from Jessica. Subject: You were right. She'd been disbarred, stripped of everything she once called power. The message ended with just 2 words. Teach me. I met her for coffee. Not as an enemy, as a survivor. We didn't talk about the past. Just code. And what comes after the fire. Some nights I still hear the hum of those servers. Still see lines of code scrolling through my mind like memories I can't erase. But I don't regret it. Because in the end, Sentinel didn't just protect networks. It protected me. It gave me a voice when the world tried to mute me. And now? It belongs to everyone who was ever underestimated, ignored, or erased. I'm not a hero. I'm not a hacker. I'm not a cautionary tale. I'm a builder. And I'll never let them take that from me again.